and I held my breath. Right from the start, I knew that I'd found the home for my heart. Beats fast, colors and promises. How to be brave, how can I love when I'm afraid to fall? But watching you stand alone, all of my doubt suddenly goes away somehow. One step closer. I have died every day waiting for you. Darling, don't be afraid. I have loved you for 1,000 years. I love you for 1,000 more. Time stands still, beauty and all she is. I will be brave, I will not let anything take away what's standing in front of me. Every breath, every hour has come to this. One step closer. I have died every day waiting for you. Darling, don't be afraid. I have loved you for 1,000 years. I love you for 1,000 more. And all along I believed I would find you. Time has brought your heart to me. I have loved you for 1,000 years. I love you for 1,000 more. I love you for 1,000 One step closer. I have died every day waiting for you. Darling, don't be afraid. I have loved you for 1,000 years. I love you for 1,000 more. And all along I believed I would find you. Time has brought your heart to me. I have loved you for 1,000 years. I love you for 1,000 more.
This is our story of how we went from strangers to friends to husband and wife.
Grace and I attended the same young adult service at Sanctus Church, C4 at the time. After the service one week, I overheard two guys talking about a tabletop game I like. I joined them, and our discussion led us to hanging out after the service. We went to Tim Hortons and began to discuss other shared interests. At this point, one of the guy's sisters joined the conversation. That guy was Jared, and his sister was Grace.
We all discovered that we had a lot in common, and we started hanging out as a friend group at the young adult services. After a couple of weeks of hanging out and getting to know each other, Matthew asked me out, but unfortunately, I just started dating the other guy in our friend group only 2 days before.
I was disappointed, but I wanted to continue to be a part of the friend group, so I moved past it and continued hanging out with them on Sunday nights. We soon began to play the tabletop game we all had in common at my house. This continued on for several months, us hanging out Sunday nights and meeting up during the week to play our game.
Even after I started dating the other guy in our group, Matthew was always a great friend to me. He was very honest and loyal and very reliable. My boyfriend and I started to lead a Bible study, and Matthew was the first person to join. He would even show up early when we asked him to help keep us accountable about our boundary of not being alone together. I invited a friend of mine from college to the Bible study, and when I noticed that they seemed to have some interest in each other, I tried to set them up together.
We went out a few times, but our time together was short-lived. I was disappointed about the abrupt ending, but I knew I could reach out to Grace and her boyfriend at the time for comfort and support. Following that time, I continued praying and seeking God's direction through the period of singleness. During a particularly difficult period of singleness, I reached out to Grace and she gave me some encouragement, which in hindsight was very interesting. She said, even if you were ready to meet her, she may not be ready to meet you.
August of 2019, my relationship with the other guy ended. I was worried about him as it was his first breakup. So, knowing how great a friend Matthew had been to both of us for the last year and a half, I messaged Matthew and asked him to be there for him. For the next few months, Matthew and I continued to attend the same young adult service together as friends. We would often talk after the service with each other and within friend groups, and Matthew began driving me home so I wouldn't have to take the bus so late at night. I started to be wary of how much time we were spending together. I didn't see Matthew in any sort of a romantic way at that time, and I didn't want to lead him on, so I decided that I should start distancing myself from him. However, I was throwing a Christian Halloween party, and Matthew offered to help me set up, so I'd have to start distancing myself after that.
I accepted Grace's invitation and offered to help because Grace is prone to biting off more than she can chew when it comes to social events. Shortly after the party began, I made a casual joke to Grace about the music, but one of the partygoers misinterpreted it as something more than it was.
A girl at the party came up to me and asked, "Are you and Matthew dating?" I told her no, that we were just friends, and she replied, "Really? 'Cause he's cute and it seems like he likes you." For the rest of the party, I couldn't get what she said out of my head. I started to see Matthew in a whole new light. I really noticed his recent weight loss and the better shape he was in, and for the first time in over a year and a half of knowing him, I realized that he had blue eyes, my favorite color and eye color. I really started liking him even after the party was over, and I never started distancing myself from him. I couldn't lead him on if I actually liked him. However, despite my budding feelings, there was still a big problem. Matthew was still friends with my ex. I had even asked him to be there for him, and we had only broken up 3 months ago. Would it be wrong for Matthew to date me, considering I was his friend's ex?
After the Halloween party, Grace and I began to talk, not just after the church services, but throughout the week through long text conversations about serious issues such as politics, religion, legalism, money, philosophy, and the book I had dreamed about that I felt God was calling me to write. During those weeks, I began to notice myself becoming more attracted to Grace, although I was uncertain about whether or not I should pursue a relationship with her because of the aforementioned friendship I had with her ex. I consulted some of my now groomsmen, who to my surprise encouraged me to consider dating Grace. The decision on whether or not I should date Grace weighed on my mind, yet it wasn't until a friend from church asked Grace and I if we were dating that we even broached the subject. After I drove Grace home that Sunday night, we both confessed that we would like to date each other, but we both agreed that it wouldn't be right to do so without first discussing with Grace's ex. After a lot of prayer and a rather difficult conversation with Grace's ex, both Grace and I began to discuss how to best go from a friendship into a relationship. For a total of 6 weeks, we prayed and asked God for his direction in this, and we waited to start dating until we both received a clear answer that God wanted us to start dating, which coincidentally led our first date to happen January 1st, 2020.
We'd only been together for a few months when the first COVID lockdown swept the nation on March 17th. While Matthew was able to continue working, my work shut down for 5 months. The vast majority of our relationship, 85% to be exact, has been through this pandemic.
Throughout the summer in our relationship, I continued to write, sensing that God was leading me to finish writing the book I had started prior to our relationship. Whenever I prayed about whether I should propose to Grace, or if I should start looking for a better job, God's only response was for me to simply finish writing the book. With this in mind, Grace and I had a deal that I couldn't see her each day until I had finished writing a page of my book. Summer passed, as did the fall, bringing with them the end of the work Grace and I had put into writing and editing my book. Having finished the book and done what God asked of me, Grace and I began to turn our focus to the original intention of our relationship, marriage. We both wanted to get married, but the first step was getting engaged, and for that, I had one particular idea in mind.
On December 12, 2020, Matthew's family had planned to have a dinner with us to celebrate Matthew's finished and published book. We went over in the early afternoon, and Matthew told me that his special copy of the book he'd planned to order for me had come in, but that it had a few changes. The word love had been added to the dedication, and an epilogue had been added to the end of the table of contents. Now, I'd been editing this book for 4 months. I knew for a fact that there was no epilogue. I flipped to the end of the book, and the epilogue read,
Grace stood in the middle of the room. Within her hand, she held the papers that encapsulated so much of her time and energy. Though her journey with the story to reach its conclusion, unbeknownst to her, she would soon take the first step of her next journey. She remained perplexed at her circumstances, waiting in anticipation of what was to come. A familiar face stood by her, someone who had been nervously anticipating that very moment, eager to ask her a simple, yet life-changing question.
I looked up from the book, and Matthew said, "Do you get it?" Then he pulled out the ring, got down on one knee, and asked me to marry him. And of course I said yes. This journey of over 3.5 years, almost 2 years as friends, almost a year dating, and now 7.5 months engaged, has led us to today. July 24th, 2021. The day we vow to love each other for the rest of our lives. A commitment we will be upholding 24/7 for as long as we both shall live.
Because of you, there's only you. Just give the word, we'll run away. I pray that one day they'll know that souls like ours you cannot tame. So take my hand, my wedding hand, we'll both be free, just call my name. I've waited all my life to find someone like you, so then on what star will my wish come true? I'll carry on forever on while dreaming of that fateful day. Because of you, there's only you. Just give the word, we'll run away. Is it a dream, only a dream? Am I a fool for having faith? When you return, will you return? Will we at last find our escape? I've waited all my life to find someone like you. So then on what star will my wish come true? I've waited all my life to find someone like you. So then on what star will my wish come true? I've waited all my life to find someone like you. So then on what star will my wish come true? Another star, sweet shooting star, oh, won't you please grant my